There are going to be people who come with special needs, and those needs can be fatiguing. They can take a toll, and I'm not going to pretend like they're not, but you do that because that person is worth it. If that person is not worth it, do you both a favor, just go. If you don't have that sense of worth for that person, just go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health. I'm your host, Todd Rennebaum, and what an exciting episode. It is episode 100 of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health. I just want to say thank you so much to all my incredible guests. There's been so many. I appreciate every single guest that's been on here. I appreciate every single listener. I appreciate all the different sponsors I've had throughout it, and there's so many more episodes that are already recorded, and sponsors being lined up, and amazing more guests being lined up. I'm just so excited for the podcast, and I think I'm just so happy that people are listening and people appreciate it and people are getting stuff from it. So please tell people about the podcast. And I've got a special little bonus episode coming up too. So it's 100th episode part B. So, and that's with my friend Trash. And so this one's with Hailey Rose. Hailey and Trash are a couple of the most popular guests, and they've been on a few times now, and so they're the most frequent guests, I guess, as well. So I thought, why not do the 100th episodes, plural, with them? And if you don't know Hailey, please go back into the library of the 100 episodes and check out, I think she has 2 different episodes. She's bipolar, she has ADHD, PTSD, and I think schizoaffective disorder. So there's all that. We talk about all that and mental health in general in this episode, and yeah, it's just a really great conversation. And hey, if you want to get me something for celebrating 100 episodes, might I suggest you get me a rating and a review on whatever app you're listening to this on. That would literally be the best thing you could give me ever. So please do that. And follow me on Instagram, Bunny Hugs Podcast, on TikTok at Bunny Hugs Podcast, and on Facebook at Bunny Hugs and Mental Health. I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's just get right into it. So without further ado, I give you Hailey Rose.
How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Just kind of okay.
The last couple of days I've been having like mouth sores and bad headaches because I've been grinding my teeth clenching my jaw, and I guess it's,
and then it like sucks your lips next to your teeth and shreds it up and everything.
Yeah, and I think it's partly the stress, partly ADHD/stress.
I do that as an ADHDer when I get stressed as well. Like I'll just kind of find myself like clenching and like, and then therefore like it just kind of like gets like my lips are all whatever and the same thing. Mm-hmm. And it sucks. And you get the headaches and stuff because you're
you don't realize you're doing it till you get the headaches, and then it's like it takes forever for the headache.
Or until you've got these big like sores in your mouth and you're like, what?
Exactly.
And then it's unavoidable.
And you? How are you?
I think I'm okay. I came down from a very hefty manic episode, and that took a big toll once I finally came down from it, and I started feeling the effects of my, disregard for basic human needs for so long. And it made me really, I was exhausted. I got sick from the psych ward, but then when I came home after this week of being ill, I was just absolutely exhausted, like onset of COVID exhausted, you know what I mean, for just like several weeks. And then it's been just kind of dwindling further and further down, and I'm more clear-headed now, but also it's just like the mood is just getting harder and harder to keep up, and I'm getting the telltale panic random panic attacks of slipping into depression now, which is it's a burnout crash depression from mania. So it's not even like everything's okay and then it just kind of starts getting funky. Like it's just this nosedive from way up high right into the ocean, which is, I'm not going to say worse than regular onset depression, but different. Like for me, because I've had both. You know what I mean? Like, and it feels different because, you're thinking, oh, I'm just feeling worse because I'm feeling better. But then you're like, no, I'm legitimately feeling worse now. And I'll just be driving and then I'll just have the wind knocked out of me over really nothing, things that aren't a huge, huge deal, or that I've supposedly been stoic about for a long time. And then, the thoughts of I there's no point in just drawing this out for years and years and years. I might as well just cut this short now. This is stupid. I hate this. I don't want to do this. Like that kind of thing starts creeping in. And then I'm like, okay. And yeah.
So then you double up.
And that's what's happening.
So then you double up your ADHD meds because it's methy.
I have been trying to find a psychiatrist who will prescribe my medications around here. And it's been difficult. I had one from California when I lived in California that was still able to prescribe across state lines. But that was only due to a COVID thing. And now the COVID thing is lifted. And now he's not allowed to do that anymore. But it's okay because his checked out attitude was the reason that I ended up in the hospital in the first place. So good riddance to him. But now I'm trying to get in with someone who will actually treat ADHD in adults because they seem vehemently against it. I saw one person who offered me blood pressure medicine for it.
A doctor?
And I'm like, a psychiatrist. I sat there with her and she's like, oh, I can give you that. And I'm like, what? Do you even know what it is?
Does that work?
What? I've never heard of that in my life. And everybody I've told who has ADHD had the same reaction as you and went, what? And because I'm just like, what? And I'm like, okay, I'm glad it wasn't just me. That's weird. But and I even told her, I'm like, I actually have low blood pressure. Like, should I be taking something like that? And she's all like, well, it's probably fine and blah, blah, blah. I'm all like, no.
Girl.
I don't deal in probably fine anymore with that. I literally can't afford it. The US healthcare system says I can't afford it. Probably fine is not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I do remember, I can't remember if we talked. I get our conversations blurred between messaging and actual on-camera conversations, but I do remember you, or maybe even some of your Instagram posts, but how you were no longer on ADHD meds because the doctor said you should go off them because it's maybe screwing up your bipolar meds. And there was a whole mess, and I didn't realize that you...
Yeah, that was last year. Yeah. But I went back on them after that, but they tried to take me off of it when I originally tried to get away from the Californian doctor and try somebody here. They didn't give it to me and said that it wasn't good. And they took me off at cold turkey. And then I went into a depression for months and months. But then so I was like, I had no choice. I had to go back to this guy in California if I was going to get the meds I needed in order to function, but yeah, now he can't do any, he can't prescribe, and I don't really want him to in the first place. Like, get this. They had a state order for me to go to the psych hospital. So I was involuntarily committed. Right. When I went to the emergency room, and they kept me there involuntarily for 7 days. Guess how much they're going to charge me?
Wait. Okay. First off, this is about 2 months ago this happened ish?
Yeah. Like late March.
Okay.
Like last week of March.
7 days in the psych ward. What does that cost? Oh, well,
with insurance.
With insurance. So insurance will cover it, but still.
Insurance will cover a good portion of it.
Okay.
However, guess what my bill is.
Before I guess, is it a nice hospital?
No. No, I was put in the ward that was like jail, first of all, for a while. And then it's been around since like the 50s. It's kind of haunted and spoopy. But, the food was nice. I will give them that. The food was quality food.
Okay.
I will give them that. You could have as much of it as you wanted.
Haunted hospital for a week with good food. $15,000.
It was 20,000 before insurance, 20 something thousand before insurance. After insurance, my bill is 2,500 something dollars to be forced to stay in a psych ward with no indication of when I was going to leave. And I saw the doctor 3 times for probably a grand total of 30 minutes. And the rest of the time, they were just kind of keeping me and putting me on sedatives and muscle relaxers and antipsychotics, trying to get me to sleep. And it wasn't really working. And telling me that we couldn't throw the little styrofoam ball back and forth to each other because it was for squishing only, not for throwing. Yeah.
Could you, was there still COVID rules in the hospital? Like you couldn't leave your room?
No, they were just petty.
Oh, okay.
They were just petty. And it got to a point where because I had no shame at that point because I was still manic. And so I just started calling them out in the halls because they were being petty and like ruining the only bit of communion we had by like being like, you can't have 5 people at a table. It's a 4-person table. So like they would make us separate from each other. Like we weren't hurting anybody. It was a gigantic table, like a 5-foot diameter table.
I paying to be here.
Stupid stuff like that. Right. Exactly. Stupid stuff like that. They, while they're sitting there on Snapchat, which is actually illegal, because you can't film people inside a hospital without their permission.
Well, technically record.
Not that they were filming us. Right.
There's no film in the camera.
You can't. True.
Sorry.
True. You cannot record in any capacity. Also, audio is a no. But no, they were doing that. So I was just walking around the halls and like one day when they finally started doing more kind of group like sessions, you know what I mean? The most petty of them, this woman who also would hang out on her Snapchat a lot, like actually was like saying, could we separate everyone, please? Like, the men over here, women over there, blah, 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 like all these kinds of things. We all chose our seats and we were fine with our seats. And I was just like, isn't it funny how we all have to avoid these stupid rules, but she can just sit on her Snapchat all day long, like, and blah, blah, blah. And I actually knew her boss because her boss is a lady I work with on the outside of it.
Oh, damn.
and she saw me and I was in scrubs and I'm like, hi. But like, yeah, and I was just like, and I just called her out and I was just like, it was just dumb.
So, is this kind of a norm for psych wards in the States? I mean, know it's you.
I've not been a huge amount of times, and I have never been in the acute unit. Like there's the unit you get put into like when you're having a hard time, like, and then there's the acute unit where they actually watch you on the toilet and taking a shower. Do you know what I mean? Like I hadn't really been in there before. So I have no idea. Maybe, the last ones I went to voluntarily. So I started out in the better area. So I have no idea.
But they were better? They seemed better?
Well, yeah. And when I went to the other place, it was better. And they were throwing muscle relaxers for me to take and antipsychotics and everything. And I'm still walking around, like enjoying my time, like laughing. I'm turning up the music and I'm dancing and all this stuff. Like, I don't think a rhino trank would have taken me out at that point. Like, I did need some time to kind of dry out as it is and just be repeatedly made attempts to sleep, So in that way, it was helpful. And I definitely crashed afterward, but... But yeah.
Okay. So now you're kind of transitioning. You're in a transition period of manic to what's opposite of manic?
Depressive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we talk about our little thing on Instagram messages?
Sure.
Was that partly due to some of the stuff you're going through, or was it a little both? Because I could see how.
So I don't know if this is something that you're planning to include in the podcast.
I guess it depends how it goes.
It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. So I'm going to take a pause so it's easy to edit.
Okay. action.
So for anyone who's listening, you may or may not know when people have when people with bipolar disorder get manic, the people around them do notice because they will act markedly differently. I think they will perceive the people around them differently. And their reactions to the actions of others will be different. And I'm not saying this to negatively stereotype my brothers and sisters in any kind of way. However, it is what it is, right? For me, at least, I would find myself extra paranoid or extra like
defensive.
Yeah. Yes. And in some cases, even offensive. If I was having a weird, big, intense day, I don't know, like I'd be like, I'm coming for you. But I didn't handle a long radio silence between me and Todd as I probably would if I was not manic. And I believe I've apologized, but if I haven't, then I will say it to your face. I'm sorry. And I mean it.
Well, thank you. And I'm sorry if
I was having trouble with the fact that I hadn't heard from you, Todd, in a long time. And I was perceiving it in that time that you just didn't want to be my friend anymore. Like I had done something or something. And rather than being rational and actually like asking you rationally about it, I became very hurt and very sassy.
Well, and in your defense, I'm a complete smartass, and I made light and said a couple smartassy comments instead of, which I should have known better because I was watching, like just through your posts and your comments and your stories, I could see, like, oh, she's going through some kind of, whether it's mania or depressant, like. I could see like you were
something wasn't right.
Yeah. And that you were more defensive and like I can feel like I don't know, it's like almost like an undertone of anger in a lot of your posts and stuff as opposed to lightheartedness. Yeah,
I got
silly,
very angry.
You normally have silly reels and stuff. So anyway, I should have known better as well.
Yeah, and I mean that's just your sense of humor, and I understand. Normally, I understand. Like earlier, you made kind of like a pranky thing, and I just thought it was funny. It was fine. But like when that was going on, and I already felt like you didn't like me, when that came on top of it, it didn't read as a joke to me. It read as this like, oh, okay, so you're just gonna rub salt in the wound here. What are you doing? Like blah blah blah, like all that kind of thing. And that's where I went, and that's where it went. And that is something that happens when one is manic, just like it can happen when one is depressed. The way that you perceive reality and people around you is just different because it just everything feels different. Things that seem logical change, things that seem innocent aren't. A lot of the time. And again, this is not everyone. I'm speaking from my own experience. However, I will speak from my own experience, and I also know it's not just me because I've been told the same thing by many, many other people with the disorder. But I still want to say that because I know there's going to be somebody who goes, "That doesn't happen to me." There's going to be a group of people who say that, and it in fact does happen to them. And then there's going to be a very small group of people who say that, and they are correct. It does not actually happen with them.
Yeah, some people aren't self-aware.
They really aren't. Yeah. A lot of the time, it's very strange. Like it's almost disappointing.
It's sad, but I too
it's
am
hard
sorry
to
and
embrace self-awareness in that kind of when you've got a lot to be aware of and it's not pretty. You know what I mean? I don't want to be aware of that.
That's true. Maybe it's denial, not self-awareness.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what? We talked it through, and I'm a fairly understanding dude. And I love you unconditionally, and I figured.
And I love you too unconditionally, and I'm grateful for your friendship, and I'm grateful for you as a friend for many reasons, but one of which being that you are able to recognize when my reality has kind of shifted. And I am not acting from the same source of reality as you are.
Right. Right.
And I appreciate that a lot, because that is not something that you can demand from anyone. It is given by grace or by nothing. So,
Right. And I mean, I obviously was emotional when I responded with emotion, but yeah, anyway. And I sent you a card and some stickers today.
Yay, I'm so excited.
And it's my 100th episode. And
I know, congratulations.
You're the special guest.
That's amazing. I'm very honored. I'm very honored, especially after my manic meltdown at you. I'm very honored.
Water under the bridge.
You've had a lot of cool people. You've had a lot of cool people on your show.
I agree.
On your podcast, excuse me.
It's a show. I don't know.
And it's really blown up. Like you're doing really well, and it's getting, you're doing, I think it's really cool. You've done a lot of work and it shows.
But one of the reasons I asked you is because I love you, and this is your third time on here, and we've done a live together. So you're my regular. So it's Trash.
I'm glad. I'm very why does Trash go by that? That's so,
I don't know, but I love it. I'm not gonna lie, I love it.
I love it too. I just hope it's not a source of self-degradation. If it's not, great. If it is,
I think it's like they're taking their power back by using that word. You know what I mean?
Good.
Yeah.
Good. As long as it's a healthy thing.
But it's hard for three people like us with personalities and brains like ours to. It's like herding cats. I couldn't get all of us on one call. So anyway, you're both kind of fan favorites.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I'm glad people like hearing me blather.
Yeah.
That's lovely. I get bored of me. I listen to me and I go, oh gosh, shut up.
Like, tell me about it. That's why I started the podcast. It's like, I want to hear other people talk. I don't want to hear my shit anymore.
I know, right? Like I sit there and I'm just like, especially if I'm just waffling, like, Jesus Christ, like, girl. Well, true to ADHD form, I have to say the same thing 6 different ways in order to be absolutely sure that my point has successfully come across. And if you don't let me say it, I will be interrupted and I will forget my train of thought and I will be very annoyed internally, but you won't see it because I won't feel like I have the worth to actually make you aware that you have upset me.
Man, I got to tell you that I'm sure my audience is tired of me talking about this, but man, I love that I got that diagnosis, man. It has been life fucking changing. Game changer.
Prepare to be sick of me. You talk about it all you want because it is a game changer.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. I mean, I've known since I was a kid, so it was always something that was just kind of a thing about me. But like, I can relate with other diagnoses where I look back on my life and go, oh my God, that's what was happening. Oh my God, that's what that was. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Oh, wow. Okay. So it's not my fault. So that wasn't just made up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's a big thing. Just being like, okay, so it wasn't just made up.
Right.
Because I feel like we do that a lot.
Yeah.
Like we just, because it's especially with ADHD, and it's such a shame because it is such a pervasive and severely disruptive disorder in one's life.
Well, I noticed a while back, you had a question thing in your stories, ask me any question, and somebody asked, what's one thing you could change or one diagnosis you would change? And out of everything, like you were just in the psych ward and you're just talking about this hell for bipolar, but you actually said you would get rid of ADHD first.
In a heartbeat. Yes. In a heartbeat, because it never ends and it never leaves me alone. And it has been responsible for stopping and I'm not going to blame it for every failure I've ever had, because obviously there's other reasons, external and internal on my own, that certain things haven't worked out, but it has been in my way on everything that I have ever held dear my entire life. And I've either had to find a way to battle and scratch around it or face the fact that it has defeated me again. And it's with me all the time. And that's the way that it is with, I know pretty much all of us, because that's the nature of it. It's like the way that you breathe.
But But you've done some really cool shit with your life that the average person hasn't, which is, I think,
I have.
because also of your ADHD. So it's a two-edged
That is
sword.
true. There are
right?
things I've done. Yes. And you know, it is a good point, because who's to say I would have wanted to do the same things had I not had ADHD that it stood in my way for. Although I will say that's kind of what's cruel. You get so excited about stuff when you have ADHD, and then ADHD is like, cool, you're not going to do it. You know, like, oh, that thing's cool. Let's go do something else. Let's go doom scroll all day and then feel bad about your life.
Yeah.
You know, like,
so, I mean, you've been an opera singer. You've been a YouTube star. You've done porn.
I have not done that. No, I have not.
Oh.
I have not done that. That last one, no.
Oh.
No, but you know, I've lived abroad for absolutely no reason except that I wanted to.
That's how I go through my life.
Yeah, because it's like, why? Because I feel like it, you know. And so that's pretty cool. But it's just the amount of kind of hell that it causes, and the way that it's just this constant thing that I'm having to roll alongside me at best, carry on my back at worst, and like crushingly, you know, is it doesn't go away. Bipolar goes away. I'm not manic right now.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while I wasn't depressed either.
Right.
So I was euthymic. So bipolar wasn't bothering me. The psychosis wasn't bothering me. You know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even the other things like the CPTSD, it is not constantly in my face. There will be things that trigger it, but it is not constantly in my face. This is constantly in my face. This was like the eating disorders, where it just, the OCD nature of them, it just never left me alone. Right. But I was able to overcome those, which you can. There is no overcoming this. There is managing it. There is no overcoming it. There is no curing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's, that it's an existential thing that, you know, you have to come to terms with. But that being said, knowing that these basic things that on the outside just look like laziness, demotivation, you know, excuses, bad behavior, rudeness, like all these other things,
spontaneous and all that shit. Yeah.
Right. Impulsiveness just for the sake of it or whatever, you know, like that kind of thing. Knowing that, or like hot tempered, like knowing all those things actually are for a legitimate neurological reason has to be a huge game changer, because even me, and I knew I had it your whole life, you can't help but feel like there's something wrong with you. Like, even when you know that that's what's wrong with you, you know, but like, especially if you don't know what's wrong with you, you're just like, why am I like this your whole life? You know?
Absolutely.
And to know that this is not because this is not a reflection of your worth is huge. It took me a long time, even with knowing that that's what was going on,
mm-hmm.
That this was not a reflection of my worth, and that I didn't deserve to feel like a constant inconvenience and burden and exasperation to everyone around me.
What age were you diagnosed?
It was suspected by age 4. It was formally diagnosed at like 5 or 6.
Oh, okay.
And I wasn't put on any medication for it until I was 18 or 19.
Gotcha.
I think I was 18. That was a weird time in my life, but it was all a weird time. I act like there wasn't a weird time in my life, and it's just not the case.
Man, I hear you. Was that when I was doing porn?
No. I was not doing porn.
Oh, yeah.
And there are people who've spread lies like that about me before, and I've had to take big links.
What? People
to erase them? Yeah, when I was doing YouTube, like, I got all kinds of creeps. There were dudes that like tried to make fake stuff of me and put it out, like either Photoshopped stuff or like find stuff of girls that looked kind of sort of like me and claim it was me.
What?
Like, yeah, all this other but no, it was a big thing. And like, there was a whole big article, some weirdo wrote about it on his weirdo news site. And like, it was just like this big lie. And it was these pictures of these girls that very clearly weren't me, but like, it was still this like, what? Like,
huh.
that was that was also a weird time in my life.
So you weren't flattered?
No, I mean, no. This was just no,
What were we
because
talking about
they
before? I'm
had my
so sorry.
name.
We are on a tangent right now.
It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. No, I mean, I'm just. I was saying just basically everything's a weird time in my life. But what my main point was, again, I have to say a million different ways. ADHD is a constant,
There we go.
and it's really hard. And it's really hard to not feel like you're just a crappy person.
Right. I kind of remember where we're going. Okay, I'm going to use different words. You used different words, but for me, it doesn't feel like these things are a character flaw anymore.
Right. Yes. Correct. Now you know that it's not it's not a character flaw. This is something legitimate that is neurological that because here's the thing. People who are lazy don't mind that they're lazy.
Right.
Right? People who are ill-behaved are perfectly fine with being ill-behaved. People who are rude are intentionally rude, and they're rude in more ways than one. Right? Not just I interrupt and I have a hard time being on time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like if there's no lazy people who are about ready to just end everything if they can't actually start this task, right? That's not laziness.
Yeah.
Because you're sitting there panicking death suddenly seems like a nice option. Why can't I just do this paper? Oh my God, I have to wash these dishes and I'm sitting here on this thing. Why am I like this? Oh God, oh God, oh God. Okay, that's not laziness.
Yeah. Why am I exhausted for doing nothing?
Exactly. Like why if you have one thing to do and it's at 3 p.m., that's your whole day. Oh God, I can't do anything, right? Because of the time blindness. You're like, if I do one thing, that's it. I'm going to be late. I'm going to miss it.
I tried explaining
that's
this to
not
my dad.
laziness. It's
because I mean,
oh God.
my sister and I were both like, guaranteed dad has it. And he's trying to, well, what do I do that makes you think I have it? So anyway, we listed a bunch of shit, but I was trying to explain to him that 3 o'clock thing where it's like, well, my day's fucked because I have something to do in the middle of the afternoon. And
yeah. It's like, and there's people who go, oh, well, I don't identify with any of those symptoms. In fact, I'm always early, like blah, blah, blah. Okay. Probably because you refuse to do anything before that appointment, no matter how late in the day it is, because you are so paranoid because you have ADHD time blindness that you are going to miss this appointment, that you have actually anxietied yourself into showing up early. That's the thing. There's 2 kinds of people with ADHD. There's the kind that show the antithesis of the symptoms because they are beyond self-aware, self-critical, self-paranoid, and therefore have overcompensated to the point where no one would suspect it. And then there's the classic, oh God, I didn't know I was supposed to be there half an hour ago. Let's get in the car. Mm-hmm. ADHD.
I notice women are more like that one. Or at least the women I know that have ADHD are more like that one.
Well, it's fair because I believe we are, because that's, I think the conscientiousness is more common in women, whether it be through culture or through nature or through both. So this expectation of conscientiousness is much higher in women, I think, than men, where women are expected to be more agreeable. Women are expected to work around other people more often, because, oh, well, it's okay. We'll figure it out. Haha, don't worry, blah, blah, blah. And that's even between friends. You know what I mean? Like that's, it's expected more, even if it's not given more these days, it's expected more still, I think. And so, people with ADHD, we're all about not rising to expectations, and we don't want to be that guy, even though we literally are that guy. Right. And so women flip out. Also, little girls are a lot less likely to be noticed with their ADHD than little boys. Typically, and of course, all gender nonconformity aside, there is an exception to every rule. This is not set in stone for everyone, blah, 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 blah. But it is a lot more common for little girls to go unnoticed and undiagnosed because the kinds of ways that their ADHD manifests is a lot less disruptive and noticeable than little boys. A lot of the time. Mm-hmm. Little boys will be more like Bart Simpson. Little girls will just be accused of daydreaming and jittering their legs nonstop and shaking the lunch table. Right. And, you'll have little boys that are very disruptive, and so they get diagnosed straight away. And it's the same thing with boys and girls with autism. Not that there's the same, presentation, obviously, but boys with autism tend to be more noticed with autism. And also because of that, the picture of ADHD is modeled after what you see in little boys.
Right.
Which just kind of repeats the cycle more and more and more and more. But luckily now we're kind of making that, we're noticing that and everything. And we're realizing that the same diagnosis can look different, not just based on gender, but based on individual to individual, even, that everything has a spectrum of severity. The thing that's cruel with ADHD is the majority of us actually have a severe case. More of us have a severe case than not. Oh, sorry, the other way around, but about 40%, that's what it is. So actually just slightly less than half of us have a severe case, like our case is deemed severe. So most people's ADHD is disruptive of their lives. You know what I mean? And a lot of us to a severe degree, and it's not taken seriously. And we still build the whole world around the people, the Helens in the world who are not, who are neurotypical. And we don't seem to have any regard for the 5% of the population, even the adult population, that has this. That's a lot of people. I think that might even be more people than deal with like depression or something, but I don't quote me on that, but I think so. It's one of the most common mental health disorders in the world, and yet we can't seem to accept people that have it.
Yeah.
And that blows my mind. And we can't seem to accommodate people who have it, and it blows my mind. Instead, we make them feel bad that they are not like everyone else, and it's silly. There are these primary disorders that breed other ones. People are all like, oh, you can't have multiple diagnoses. Fuck you. Of course you can. Like, what are you talking about?
You can have cancer and diabetes.
Right. And it's just like, or it's like, hey, you know what? If you're a drug addict, guess what? You probably also have depression. Doesn't that make sense? Right. Like, obviously.
Comorbidities, they call them now.
Right. Comorbidities. Exactly. And it's like, but there are certain ones that are kind of primary ones a lot of the time that will breed these other ones more often. And it's like, you look at people, it's like, well, I'm a recovering addict, I suppose you'd say. I have depression. I have anxiety. I have OCD. I've got blah, blah, blah. Why do I have all of these things? Because I have ADHD.
Yeah.
If I didn't have this, I probably wouldn't have these, or I wouldn't be struggling with these in these ways.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like the anxiety, all of these other things.
And I mean, you throw trauma and other shit in there too, but they've
even said that, noticed that girls with, well, I don't know, it might even be people with ADHD, but certainly girls with ADHD are much more likely to develop eating disorders. You know what I mean? Like, because of this, I have to control what's going on with me. I have to prove that I can do something, like I have to be good enough. I have to be good enough. I'm not good enough. I have to be good enough. And they internalize that as a physical thing. I mean, I dealt with it for many, many years. It's something I relapsed into over and over and over again.
Because it's another kind of compulsive kind of symptom, really.
Yes. And it turns into a coping mechanism for tough things, right? Because it's like, and suddenly it's like you get this mentality of, if I can just be skinny enough, then all my problems will go away and I'll be okay. Or if I could, I'm just going to eat this chocolate cake because it makes me feel better. And while I'm eating chocolate cake, I don't have to face the things that are not chocolate cake.
And dopamine.
Which are terrible. Exactly. And also I crave dopamine, and that chocolate cake is wanting that chocolate cake is stirring it up, and now I got to have it, And so,
yeah.
And it's just, and it's one of those things. And that's what people don't get. They're all like, oh, you just forget your keys sometimes. And I'm all like, no, I have an Apple AirTag on my keys so that my keys can call my phone, so that my phone can call my wallet, so that my wallet can call the remote. They've all got little tags on them. You know what I mean? Like,
and you're talking about kind of like supports and stuff like that, like with school or jobs or whatever. Because I think I've worked well, I fucking probably have had 20 jobs, and they've all said, oh,
I know, I can't even remember all the jobs I've had.
they're all like, oh, we're supportive of mental illness and mental health and stuff. And I'm telling you, it's all bullshit. They will if it's convenient for them that day, but if they're understaffed and they need you there, or you know, if they're supportive when it's convenient for them. I'm not everybody, not every place, right? Not every place I've worked at, but yeah.
Right. But I find a lot of the time when people say, oh, we support mental health, that's exactly what they mean. They support mental health. They support mentally healthy people. They don't support mentally ill people. They don't support mental illness. They support mental health. Oh, do you need a bath? You need like to leave early so you can go have a hot bath so you can feel better for tomorrow for work?
Yeah.
Great. Go. We'll let you go an hour early, right? Like,
which is good too, right? But that's not helping me any.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess, it's like throwing a bag of peanuts at someone who's starving to death. Does it help a little?
Yeah.
I guess,
yeah.
Keeps them alive an extra hour, maybe,
Yeah. That's right.
But it is pretty laughable. But I will say, I'm really glad I know how long you waited for that diagnosis. I know how long you waited to actually get medications and to get something that will help you control your life. I'm sorry that so many people are pushing this whole, stimulant medication is just, legalized meth and don't do this and don't do that thing. Like, I wish that wasn't the case, but it is to the point where it makes it hard for us to get our meds. And
it doesn't help. I'm in recovery too. So I have to sign for it, and it's all controlled when I go to pick it up.
And they can see that too, can't they?
Well, I live in a small town. Everybody knows, and I'm an advocate and stuff. So.
Oh, okay.
But even my wife, when she had to pick it up for me one time, she had to sign. So it's a controlled substance here in Canada. Like, you have to sign. And,
right, and it's okay if you want to make sure it's not in the street. That's fine. Yeah. I just don't understand. Because obviously this is not meth.
Right.
It is in the family, but it's like nobody sits there and says to me, or someone I know who might be taking lithium for bipolar disorder, oh my God, that's the same thing they put in batteries. I mean, technically, yes, it is the same element. Yes, it is the same thing they put in batteries. Mm-hmm. Does anybody give a crap? No, because that's the medicine. That medicine works.
It's a mineral.
That medicine works. That mineral works. Yeah. Exactly. Are there a ton of side effects? Of course there are. I take stimulant medication for ADHD. I am way more afraid to take lithium because it's like got some of the side effects of a chemotherapy drug, right? And for those people
at high doses,
please continue. Well, no, not even. You have to get your blood checked every other month to make sure your levels are okay. It can make your hair fall out. It can make your skin do all this other stuff.
I talked to a doctor that promotes lithium. He's like, he thinks everybody should have a little bit of lithium every day because it's a healthy mineral and all this stuff.
A little tiny bit, maybe.
Because you can buy bottled water that's lithium infused and stuff.
Right. But the doses you have to take to treat bipolar disorder are much, much higher than that.
Yeah, it's like 10 times higher or something.
Yes, and that's the problem. 10 times more of pretty much anything is going to be bad news, but particularly a mineral element like that, it does all kinds of stuff to you, and you have to really need it. And the sad thing is, like, well, why do you take it? Because it's still a better alternative than what the people who take it go through without it. Mm-hmm. That's how extreme it can be. But the thing is, it's the same thing with ADHD meds. Are there side effects for it? Yes. Are there long-term side effects? Probably yes. In fact, I know that there are some.
Oh, what?
But well, it changes the way that, and this is going to sound so scientific, but basically it changes the way that, like, you receive certain hormones like serotonin or dopamine. It changes the way that your brain regulates it. And that can have long-term effects where it becomes difficult to get off of it. You may develop a dependency on it. If you don't have it administered correctly or whatever. But the problem is, it's like, I understand that. I understand that there are certain side effects it may have, but I have to be willing to go through those because the problem it is fixing is actually that bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's the thing. Nobody questions antipsychotics. Nobody questions lithium. Nobody questions even chemotherapy for people with cancer. But this, everyone's got a big problem with it. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I mean, there.
You go, oh, it's this, it's that. It's like, if you're doing that, you don't understand the pervasiveness of the problem. I'm sorry.
I've had some people tell
like,
me they're worried that I've been on anti-anxiety and antidepressants for like a decade, and they're worried that's, it could hurt your liver, it could hurt your kidneys and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, but maybe, but it's also, I'm not dead because I killed myself.
Right.
My everyday.
I'm not sitting here wasting my life in bed all day because I can't get up.
My quality of life day to day while I am here is better.
I'm here for a good time, not a long time, as it were. But no, it's like, drink lots of water. Your kidneys should be okay. But you know what I mean? Like, and it's just so funny to me how nobody has a problem with all these other heavy drugs. I mean, you talk about a heavy drug, antipsychotics, all of them, heavy drugs. Mm-hmm. They're very heavy drugs, huge side effects that make a lot of people who need them not want them. Yeah. And I can understand because I don't want them. I didn't take them any longer than I needed to.
Yeah.
I refuse to take them regularly because they're horrible. I don't like them. If you need them, please take them. Bing. But that's the whole point. If you need them, they are that heavy, but the problem is worse. And that's what people don't get. And so it's okay. I don't like that people are being bullied about taking stimulant medication for ADHD. It's proven extremely effective for something that you otherwise get no relief from.
Yeah.
And you still don't get full relief with those, but it helps.
Yeah. Sure does.
And I mean, I have to say, if this was a thing just about laziness, I would rather just say, no, I think I'm just going to get my shit together. Like,
yeah, exactly.
But I've been trying to get my shit together for a very long time.
Me sitting here staring at my phone for 3 hours is me trying to get my shit together.
Right. Just sitting there, you're all like sitting there like crying, like I can't. How old am I turning this year? What? Like, like just oh God, But and it's crazy. And that's what people don't get. And I think the age of demeaning ADHD is coming to a close, and I'm happy to usher it out the door with everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I was fairly ignorant about it until I wanted to get assessed because it was shit like videos on TikTok and Instagram that were like, huh? Oh, educating me these little things. I'm like, oh, is that what it is? Is that, because in my mind, it was just the hyperactive kid. And I wasn't a hyperactive kid. I wasn't the guy flying around the classroom and, the super annoying. Well, to me, they were annoying. Kid.
No, they were.
But internal, but I was the same thing, but it was all internal, right? It wasn't external.
Right.
Except my knee was bouncing and, I was shaking the whole classroom because I couldn't keep my knees from bouncing because of the anxiety and stuff. But anyway.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I as much as there's stupid shit on social media and dum-dums fucking lip syncing, there's also, I think it's been amazing.
And people pretending to have certain disorders, but then there are things that are legitimate. And hey, you know what? If it actually leads you to a doctor, and that's the thing, I don't mind. I'm glad that things lead people to doctors, lead people to places where they can actually get a professional to take a look at them, someone who knows what they're doing. There's this huge, like, nonsensical stigma against, getting an actual medical diagnosis for mental illness. And it is just the dumbest stigma in the world. And I'm not going to cater to the people who have it because they're being dumb.
What do you mean? People
that arguments are dumb.
That are saying don't self-diagnose, you mean?
No, there are people who are saying self-diagnosis is fine. You don't need a professional for any mental illness diagnosis. That's absolute nonsense. Like, yes, there are a lot of people who don't have access to a doctor. That is very tragic. It's very sad. And I would love to see that fixed for them. It doesn't mean they don't need one now.
Yeah.
You don't not need a doctor just because you can't find one. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's really stupid, and the people, like, you can kind of, there's certain things that are probably easier to guess for yourself. Like a lot of people who are autistic, for example, kind of know they're autistic once they start looking into it, and stuff like that. And yes, they should probably still get an assessment if they can, but I will give them credit. They tend to be right.
Yeah.
But there are these other things like people who say, oh, I probably have bipolar disorder. Or, oh, I probably have this or I probably have that, and you're just like, okay, well, probably is fine, but you need to get a real opinion because you need to know what you're treating and how to treat it. For example, if you have bipolar disorder, but you decide to self-diagnose and you think that you have borderline personality disorder, well, the way that you treat that is so very different. And you could end up actually kind of getting yourself into a lot of trouble because you're not paying attention to the right things, Well, and people go, well, I know my body. And I'm just like, yeah, but you don't know psychology.
Right. Yeah.
What's wrong with you? Like, oh, I know my body, therefore I can tell if I have cancer. Like, no, you can't. What are you talking about? That's why you go to the doctor. Like, shut up,
Yeah. Well, and I see it the other way too, where there's people diagnosing other people too. It's like, my partner was a narcissist.
Armchair diagnosing.
Yeah, he was a narcissist. She was my ex-wife is borderline and all this stuff. And maybe, but don't say you're a victim.
They could be behaving in a narcissistic way.
Yeah, exactly.
There are people who act narcissistically in terms of literally in a self-serving and glorifying way.
Yeah.
But like that's not narcissistic personality disorder. And it sucks because the adjective is used in the description of the disorder. And therefore people will just assume that anyone who fits the adjective is now someone with a disorder. And that's a shame because it makes it harder for those people to get help. But I agree, armchair diagnosing is even more obnoxious because who the hell are you?
Yeah.
Like it's never psychologists who do it because they know better.
Yeah. Armchair diagnostic people, they're narcissists.
I mean, I like to do it like just as a joke for fun between me and like, who's sitting next to me or whatever, but I'm not going to sit there and actually make that assessment in a very serious way. You know what I mean? Like that's silly. And then to sit and project that onto people, you're right. It's usually someone projecting what they see in themselves onto somebody else.
I think so quite often.
That guy's got ADHD because I recognize this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing. It's you, sweetie. It's you. Like, but, and that's the thing. And I think the most common ones are people say that their ex or their mom or dad had narcissistic personality disorder, or they were a sociopath or had antisocial personality disorder, which is what you should use, not sociopath. They had BPD, or they had bipolar disorder. Everybody loves to say that their ex was bipolar, usually their ex-girlfriend, because she would flip-flop on her energies and vibes a lot. And that kind of thing. People love it. They love it. And that sucks because that's a very big diagnosis.
Yeah.
I
mean, some of them might be
they're
right.
all pervasive and difficult, but that is a diagnosis that comes with an image attached, unfortunately. Do you know what I mean? Like that we need to change, but it's there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one is OCD. It's like, I like my forks clean, so I have OCD. I think I have a little OCD.
Oh yeah, that's a self.
It's like, but
yeah. Yeah. Or all the kids on TikTok who suddenly have
Tourette's?
DID, and Tourette's and DID are so parodied almost, unfortunately, on TikTok by all these people. It's like, wow, really? All your personalities are from your favorite anime film. What are the coincidences? What are the odds of that? Wow. Or, oh, there are all these people that happen to like all the same kind of like stuff that you like in your fantasy stuff and everything. Wow. You know what I mean? Or
that's
like,
Munchausen,
these
actually.
people are like, is that the one where they believe they have something?
I don't even know if they believe
and
it.
They don't necessarily. Or they just are like, oh yeah, I have this. Oh yeah, like it's like a pathological lying thing, or is it like they literally think they have it, like a neurotic kind of thing?
I think I don't know. I could be wrong, but because I've heard people that have this Munchausen, and then when they get home, it's like they put the crutches away and everything, and then they're a normal person. And then the doorbell rings, and they. So I don't know. Maybe some are one way, some are the other way. I don't know. I don't actually know. But
yeah, that's crazy, man.
Oh, I gotta find someone for the podcast because there's Munchausen by proxy as well.
Oh Jesus! Now they're just trying to make sure everybody has something.
But there's a great movie and documentary, or it was a Netflix series, I think, where it's like this girl was dying of cancer and everybody was like, oh no, you poor thing. And the mother, she didn't have cancer at all. The mother forced her to basically act like she had cancer all the time. And then everybody was all nice to her. And then the daughter snapped and killed her mom with her boyfriend.
That escalated. I don't blame the girl, but that escalated.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a great series.
Yeah, no, okay. That's insane. Yeah, no, I've
Hey,
yeah,
don't say
like
that. Don't use that word.
I can take it if I want. It's my N word. I can do that if I want. Just kidding.
Oh my God.
But like
Great. Now I have editing to do.
but no, like no, but you know what I like it's insane. I have a bit of what's the opposite of a soft spot? A sore spot.
Yes. Okay, sure.
I guess. I have a bit of a sore spot for people specifically who fake being like disabled, like in wheelchairs and stuff. Cause like my grandmother was in a wheelchair and I know what that's actually like. And for somebody to fake that and be able to get up out of the wheelchair later, not because that's just how their disability functions and sometimes they need a chair and sometimes they don't, but like somebody who legitimately doesn't need it and will then get up out of it to go to bed or go to the bathroom or something. Like,
I mean, that's a mental illness too, though, right? It's a weird ass disorder, I think.
no, I'm not letting them claim that. They're just a-holes. I'm not letting them claim that. I'm sorry.
Okay. I don't care what you.
No, no, it's fine. It might be, but I'm just saying, I just don't want to run into one of those people in person. I just don't. Like, if you're in a wheelchair, you better need to be in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I should do more looking into Munchausen, see if I can get someone on the podcast.
Would they admit that they had it though? Because wouldn't that kind of be self-defeating?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because then you'd have to admit that you don't have the thing,
or someone that was married to someone.
You say you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe somebody who like was married to or in the family of somebody who has it or whatever. Like, because I don't, because it's like if you admit you have it, then suddenly you have to admit that you don't have these other things, which creates this catch-22 that you now don't have it because now you're not.
Or they're treated,
you know what I mean?
now, maybe.
Or now they've got this syndrome to hang on to, and they can go ahead and hang on to something they actually have. And there you go. Now you've got a real thing.
Yeah.
I just don't get people would want to have this. And I had this girl in my DMs like a few days ago who was basically trying to kind of fish for answers to give her psychiatrist, who was going to be asking her about, her symptoms and stuff, because she wanted to get a score of, it seems like, bipolar disorder.
Right. I call that like data mining.
Yeah,
info mining.
In that kind of way. Yeah, in that kind of way. That's a good way to put it. And I could tell she was doing that because she was like, I don't even get why they're asking for this information because I don't see what that has to do with anything. But like, if you actually have it, like, it makes perfect sense why one would be asking about that information. Like, for example, she goes, why are they asking about my, my relationships and my family and my friends with my family and friends? Like, that doesn't have anything to do with bipolar. And I'm like, yes, it does. Of course it does. You said bipolar disorder can heavily affect your family and friends relationships and romantic relationships.
Even people you've never met in person.
Right, exactly. Todd, this is a prime example. But you know what I mean? And I'm just like, if this was something you were worried that you had, you would have noticed. Yeah. Because that's usually one of the clues is, how have your relationships gone?
Yeah, exactly.
How's your relationships with your family? How are your friends? Do they kind of know when something's not going right with you? Do they have that vibe with you? Like, it's a thing,
Yeah. Oh, I just thought of something. Last time I talked to you, you were wanting to get a dog.
Yes, I was.
And now you got one.
And I got one. I got one. He's my little baby. He's a cheeky little shit, though. But he's sweet. His name's Oliver, and he's a Maltese, and I'm training him to be a good boy. And he's realized that he's 10 months old, but he's realized that he gets treats when he does what he's supposed to do, but that also sometimes I don't have a treat. And if I don't have a treat, he does not see reason as to why he should go through the labor. And I can't really argue with him because I wouldn't want to not get paid for my labor either. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, you're a dog. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, you're not going to unionize with the other dogs. Just sit, like, just chill. But he's just like his mommy, though. Gotta challenge everything.
Because you were hoping to get one and kind of have it like a support animal.
Yes.
How's that?
I'm trained. He's actually
Caused more stress?
no, he's naturally inclined to do what he's supposed to do when I'm symptomatic.
Hmm.
And I've been rewarding that. And I'm really excited about that. And I've been kind of trying to sculpt what that is. And I'm looking more into making sure that everything's done correctly, obviously, before I try to get him any kind of paperwork. But like the amount of panic attacks he's rescued me from, the amount of full body paralysis that he's brought me out of has been amazing. I mean, he's incredibly intuitive. He's very smart. He's almost kind of too smart because of the treat thing. And he's just a little bit sassy, but I love him to death. And he's a wonderful little dog. And it's just weird. I've never had any little friend. I've never had a friend that consistently chose me over everybody else as much as this dog.
Does he have a choice?
Ever. Yeah, he could choose my husband.
I suppose. Okay.
He could choose my mom, or he could choose, whoever, or people walking by or whatever, but he always wants to hang out with me. He always wants to hang out with me all the time. And I'm just like, wow, buddy. Why?
Winning.
Winning. Oh God, the Charlie Sheen interview. They say you're bipolar. I mean, I'm by winning. I win here, I win there. I'm like, if that doesn't sound like mania, I don't know what does. I'm by winning. I win here, I win there.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
I haven't been keeping up with this, but I noticed you've posted about Britney Spears a few times too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I had. She's turned her comments off on her Instagram, and I think that's probably for the best for her. I know there were a lot of people who were legitimately concerned for her, but at the end of the day, she's got a lot to process and probably shouldn't be posting much at all right now, just because, I mean, she's free to do what she wants and that's great. But if it was me, I'd be like, you know what? I need a break from all of this. I'm not gonna, but she's free to do what she wants. I wish that there were people around her that showed more care for her. I don't know what's literally going on, but it seems like there's not a lot of people around her who are really looking into her best interest, and it kind of shows. And what the biggest thing was that was quantifiable for me was it's not a secret she has bipolar disorder, or at least that she's been diagnosed with it. It's not a secret. And yet people look at behavior of hers that could very well be chalked up to bipolar disorder and act like it's just something she's doing in an otherwise right mind. Or like, what's going on? She crazy. What's wrong with her? What's wrong? She's probably having a bipolar episode. That's what's wrong with her. Like, what are you talking about? What's wrong with her? You know what's wrong. Like, don't act surprised. Don't act like she's doing this and she's totally aware of this or whatever. She very well could not be.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know. This could be something with this. And just the amount of people who don't seem to actually know anything about bipolar disorder and therefore know that, it's just this thing with crazy people, but they don't really know what it is. Like, they don't know where the line is with people who have it. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think she was better off having her dad as her, whatever they called it?
It's hard for me to say for sure because, you never know what's true in a documentary and things and what's not.
Yeah.
But if I'm going on the information that I have been given from documentaries where she has spoken herself, if that information is true, I would say absolutely not. It didn't seem like her dad was treating her like a person at all. I think that, and this may or may not be a popular opinion, but I think that people with bipolar disorder should not try to do it by themselves. I will say that because we lack an ability we lack self-insight when we are in an episode. We cannot see things as they are. We can't feel our bodies. We can't feel like it's not that my body didn't need sleep most nights for 3 months. It's that I couldn't tell that my body needed sleep most nights for 3 months. That's different. I need someone around me to say, hey, you're not sleeping. We need to do something. You are not perceiving this correctly. No one's out to get you. Nobody hates you. You're fine. You read that wrong, sweetie. I love you, but you read that wrong. Everyone who has bipolar disorder should have somebody in their lives that's like that. I realize that a lot of people don't, and that's very, very sad. But everyone with bipolar disorder needs someone who's willing to tough love them, and help them when they're in crisis, have mercy on them when they, struggle, and, are there, to kind of see them and pay attention to them when they're not realizing what's going on. You don't realize that you're starting an episode a lot of the time. You just kind of all of a sudden are like, oh, I thought I was just doing great. Oh, I just thought I was having a good time. Oh, I just thought I was having an off week, month, year,
Yeah,
like, and so it's almost not better to be left completely out in your underwear by yourself when you have bipolar disorder as to have an oppressive conservatorship like that.
Right.
Neither of them are good. You look at Kanye West, all he has is enablers around him.
Yeah.
And look where it went.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying all of that was bipolar disorder. I don't know, but I can guarantee you the bipolar did not help.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I can guarantee you that. And there's certain things where you can feel you're like, I can see it in that, but people around him profit off of him being wacky and outlandish and offensive and all this other stuff. So they're not going to help him. But yeah, no. And so it's like, it's sad, it's sad to watch, and it's sad to watch everyone treat them as if they don't have a debilitating mental illness.
Right.
And that this is all just a character flaw.
Yeah. But it's also sad that there was people in her life like her dad that was maybe taking advantage of her and caring. Yeah. God.
And it's also sad because it's like in the sense of her kids and in Kanye West's kids, like, this is the people with bipolar who are suffering are not the only victims.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, their kids are victims of this now, like, and their loved ones, their friends, who are legitimate friends, like, might end up suffering or whatever. And it's like, and also, like, the really sad thing is these kids, both of them have multiple children. The likelihood that one of those children, especially after experiencing all of this proxy trauma, will also develop bipolar disorder is not to be overlooked. It can happen. And especially with Kanye West, he has more kids, so it's even more likely, that at least one of them will. And they will look back and see the way that their father was and go, oh God, is that going to be me? And flip out. And that's why I always tell parents, it's like, if your partner has bipolar disorder and you guys have kids together, be very, very careful how you paint your partner, not for your partner's sake even, but for the sake of your child. Because if you wait until that child grows up and develops bipolar disorder to then turn around and go, oh, well, people with bipolar can be totally lovely. They don't have to be these horrible life-ruining people that I've been portraying them to be to you my whole life, your whole life, blah, 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 blah. Oh, it's too late. Mm-hmm. It's too late. They're not going to believe you. They're not going to believe in themselves.
Right.
But it's like what you say about a child's parent or sibling or family member, you may also be saying about them. And that's true for ADHD, and that's true for autism, and that's true for OCD and all the other mental illnesses. But particularly, I know people with bipolar disorder have a special gift for doing alienating things sometimes when we get into these episodes. And so, it can be particularly common to have contention, because of that. And it's like, dude, just children will listen. Just be careful,
And one more thing I'd like to talk about before we go, unless you have to get going.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm okay.
Is about partners. I think someone made a comment on your Instagram one time or something about, oh, your husband must be a saint to be with someone like you, kind of thing. Like, it was very, very like patronizing in a way, and it's like, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was manic, and I didn't take that very kindly. I would have taken it kindly anyway, yeah. I went on an extra roasting fest with it.
Yeah, but it's true. It's like, explain.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's it wasn't even that. It was a comment like that, and then on top of it, it was all these people who were partners of people with bipolar disorder. Like, it's one of those things where it's like a negative bias. Like, you look at reviews on something, and the people who have a problem with it are more likely to be reviewing it than the people who don't.
Right.
Yeah. Like, unless you're either really wowed or you're disappointed, and that's why you're making a review, right? And so you're going to hear more in these groups for support about complaints that people have with people who are with their bipolar partner, and it paints this picture like we are just these horrible, burdensome monsters. And it's like, there are things about, there are going to be people who come with special needs, and those needs can be fatiguing. They can take a toll. And I'm not going to pretend like they're not. It's the same thing if your partner needs a wheelchair. It's not, you're not just pushing them around at the mall, right? Mm-hmm. You're also probably helping them change catheters. You're also probably helping them get in and out of bed, get dressed, cook. You have to probably help them clean up in the bathroom. You have to do, it's much more than that. And it's true. But you do that because that person is worth it. If that person is not worth it, do you both a favor, just go. If you don't have that sense of worth for that person, just go, but like, I will tell you one thing, out of all the negative things that partners of people with bipolar say, one thing I hear consistently is, but I have never been loved so exuberantly and powerfully by anyone in my life. I have never been so cared about. No one has ever been so enthusiastic about me. And it's true. Like, there's good things to dating us. And underneath the disorder, underneath all of that, we're people. We're people that have something to offer. We're people who have a personality that you might vibe with. We're people who may have the same beliefs as you, or who may like the same things as you, or who you may just have a lot of fun with. And guess what? We have a lot of fun with you too. And we work well together and blah, blah, blah. And, and so there are greater things outside of these disorders, to take into account that make that person worth being with. And then the other half of it is, it's like, everybody's got something about them that makes them not enjoyable to be with. And the partners are no exception. Now, maybe they're not being as wacky. Maybe they don't cost as much at the hospital. But to say that they're just these saintly, wonderful beings for being with these horrible people is silly. There are things that the person with bipolar disorder also has to put up with from that person. That person may have their own mental health diagnosis. That person may come and will come with their own baggage, with their own needs, with their own insecurities and emotional arrested development and blah, blah, blah. But they're still worthy of being with, clearly, and it's this fine line between, yes, I have special needs and I need somebody to help me. And hi, I'm an equal partner in this relationship in a lot of other ways, and that's something that you both have to be very clear about, because sometimes I am the person in the room that is responsible. I am the person in the room who is in reality, who's saying, no, we need to do this. You are not well. Let's go help you out. Like, blah, blah. Like, if he's having a bad day, or whatever, like, and I'm the one that's there, and it does happen. It happens the other way around as well. But, and I just, these people, I know that they don't mean to be hurt. I don't think they mean to be hurtful.
Right.
I don't think they mean to be hurtful to their partners, but I don't think they've stopped to consider the feeling of being normal one day, waking up, going to that mental health appointment that you made because you don't feel great, and coming out with a label that makes people saints for being with you.
Right.
Wow, I can't believe you'd be with that person. Now I'm the one where it's like, oh, aren't I lucky that somebody wants to be with me? Like, no, fuck you.
I mean,
I'm great.
But crazy people are devils in the sack. That's what it is. I'm no comment. I'm just being surprised.
No, but that's another like thing. Like, oh God, what if I disappoint now? Because that's what everybody thinks. That is a stereotype, though, actually, which is really weird.
No.
Like, it's a weird stereotype. Like, oh, so you must be into some weird stuff. It's like, are you? Like, I mean, yeah, but just kidding. Like, it's the thing, and that's the thing, is it's like it's like, you don't consider, like, imagine people thinking that you're lucky that anyone wants to be with you because you're some kind of monster. There's also this myth, and it's the last thing I'll say because I know that you want to wrap stuff up, and I know that, we've been talking for a while and it's fine. But like, there's this big, very pervasive myth that 90% of bipolar marriages fail. And that's a myth.
Oh.
It's completely skewed. It's this thing that a lot of people think is true because it's been going around the internet.
95.
If you look for the source, it's not. It's slightly higher. It's slightly higher than the regular divorce rate, which I think is at like 40 or 50%. It's at like 50 to 60. But it is not 90. What they got, if you look back at that study that they cite, the big they, it's this thing where they followed like something like 8 couples or some tiny number of couples from the same group in the same situation, and observed and asked them if they'd been married before, and like, followed them and saw if they remained married like in a few years or whatever. And in that tiny little group, those people had at like 90%, or like they had all been divorced at some point, but then also had remarried, and therefore that divorce counted, and blah, blah, and all this,
right.
Like the information was just so not painting the real picture of it that it was absurd. But now people have taken that and run with it. And I cannot tell you the amount of perfectly good people with bipolar disorder, and perfectly good people who are in love with people who have bipolar disorder, who have been so discouraged by that. I've had people be like, I've stayed alone and avoided relationships for years because 90% of marriages to people like me fail. Well, I'm sorry that you've wasted so much time, but that's just not correct. Go find love, go be happy. If it works out, wonderful. If it doesn't, don't be afraid to leave, but please don't let it discourage you just because that stupid myth is going around.
Thank you so much, Hailey. As always, I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate this podcast for bringing us together and creating this relationship and stuff. So thank you so much for everything. Coming up next, not next week, next episode, which is going to be released, well, should be the same time as this one, Trash. And if you don't remember Trash, well, check out their episodes too. So again, I'm not going to waste much time because we're doing 2 episodes. So all I have to say is please remember to make your beds and take your meds. Bye.